It was horrible because she was in intensive care when they brought her out the second time, and they didn't want to take the tube out. And boy, she was pounding that bed. She wanted that tube out of there.
I want to take you back to 1963. You just graduated San Diego State. You'd been dating your now wife, Pat, then girlfriend, for 8 years. She is off vacationing in Europe for part of the summer.
Yep.
Why, when she gets back, did you realize you want to put a ring on it?
Because I missed her. She was gone for, I think it was like 2 months or something crazy. And so when she came back, I just kind of felt like, this would be a good time for us to go ahead and get this thing done. And so it's one of the best things I've ever done. I think the best way to describe Pat, I was kind of complaining one day at work. JD was there. And I was complaining about Pat. Somehow we got this or that in front of him, and he just said to me, he goes, "She sacrificed her entire life for you." Went just like that. And I stopped and backed up, and I said, "You're right. She has. She's been always the mother lion in the background. We're doing all this stuff, racing, football, all this, and she's been the steady person there that raised the boys and really kind of ran the show at the house when I was gone so much." It's one of those special relationships. We started going together very young, and we've kind of always been together and felt like, we're the match.
Earlier in life, one of the tougher times in the relationship was when Pat, I think unbeknownst to you, goes to get a CAT scan without you knowing. How did you find out?
1980, I came home from, I was coaching at the Chargers as an assistant. And Pat was there at the house, and she was crying, and you could tell she was trying to hide it from me, and she had hid it for several weeks because we hadn't finished the football season. And so when I eventually sat with her and talked to her, they had diagnosed her with an acoustic neuroma. It's a benign tumor, but it's a tumor behind your ear in this auditory canal here. And she was going to have surgery. And so I think that was a traumatic time for us. And knowing that how serious this was, had the surgery and then had somewhat of a setback with it afterwards. She'd had some more bleeding there, and it just caused all kinds of issues with her. And so it affected one side of her face.
At that time, when she was having the complications and she goes back in for the second surgery, what about it made you say those hours were the toughest of your life at that point?
It was horrible because she was in intensive care when they brought her out the second time, and they didn't want to take the tube out. And boy, she was pounding that bed. She wanted that tube out of there. And man, I am like this. I'm going, you don't know what all's going on. But it was just a traumatic time for us, the whole family, and it was so hard for Pat. But it's amazing the way she deals with it.
I think she cried pretty regularly for a long time after that. What was the toughest part, in your opinion, of the recovery process?
It affected everything because it was kind of hard for her balance-wise and everything because it affects, kind of your whole balance. But I think the biggest thing was the fact that there was paralysis there, and we had to fight through all the things that affects. And she was such a champion, and all kinds of doctor appointments, back and forth, just all the time, trying to get things squared away. And like I said, I'm not sure how many people could deal with that the way she did.
So I have to admit, when I was reading about this, I did laugh out loud a little bit. So after her hospital stay and recovery process, she comes home, and you'd left a mound of dirty laundry for her.
I think the boys, we just kind of stacked everything up in the corner. And then when we ran out of underwear, I just went and bought more.
Because you didn't know how to do laundry,
I didn't
right?
know. I still don't know how to do laundry.
What do you mean?
Wash it with my hands or something, but no, that has not been my deal. And then Pat knows that. And yeah, we just kind of pile stuff up there. we would go from this pile to that pile to this pile. And but anyway, we went through a lot there when Pat was recovering.